Okay, for those of you that are watching on YouTube or any other video platform, you may notice that I've got these crazy paintings behind me. Why am I standing in front of these paintings? Because today we have part 2 of my interview with Ori Bengal, the incredible marketer, creator, innovator, and artist. And so I just thought it would be appropriate to be standing in front of some more crazy art. If you missed part 1, please go back on whatever platform you're listening to and find part 1. Part 2 is just an extended version where we talked about some more random things, and I hope you find it entertaining. So thanks so much for tuning in. Let's get to part 2 with Ori Bengal. Hello, and welcome to Hero Up, the podcast that inspires and challenges you to step up and become heroic in all areas of your life. I'm your host, Tony Stark Polici, and it's my goal to give you practical, actionable advice and insights into copywriting, mindset, lifestyle, and impact. On this show, we'll explore how to create compelling and persuasive marketing messages, and I'll give you clever tips to make you stand out as a hero. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a freelancer, a coach, or a creative, this podcast is for you. So, let's dive in. Anyone that has a foundation or a cause, definitely should reach out to Ori, because not only is he a brilliant artist, but obviously he's a brilliant strategist and marketer, and he can really maximize what you're doing, your fundraising. He's got some great ideas. So, Ori, I think we all get known for whatever the heck it is that we're doing, right? But what is something that people don't know about you? Because I think your art is out of this world. And, I think there's something people don't know about how out of the world it is.
There's a lot of things. I'm really glad you said that, by the way. That is about me. I hope you guys and gals really pay attention to that one thing you just said. It's subtle, but it's so important. So you are so much more than your job, your business, your anything. We are very complex beings, but so many times I actually get frustrated when, people introduce me to just an artist. I'm like, well, yeah, but because I do so much more, right? There's all the research, there's storytelling. I set up the experience for people. That's a whole other story, And there's help people raise more money. I don't even care if my art's not involved. I spoke to one foundation, not foundation. There's this really cool company, Coop Notes. They send texts. It's really anyone who's dealing with anxiety and stress. It's just kind of little reminders that the guy's a TEDx speaker. He tells the story, but I spoke to them, right? I reached out to my network. I'm like, hey, I'm just looking to help. Who do you know? Blah, blah. Someone connected me with Johnny, who's the guy who founded it. And I spoke to his staff, and I didn't even bring up my art. I'm like, yeah, we can, but I gave them solutions that are going to fix their problem. I'm like, well, what's your biggest challenges? What you guys? They told me, I'm like, what you need is this, not even my art. I'm like, we can talk about fundraising and all that stuff later, but this is going to get you guys into more doors, more of your enterprise stuff, and that's going to get you much further, right? I'm a creative ball. I'm just a whirlwind of creativity. It's all problem solving. I did the unveiling for Ryan Dice. I'm like, all right, guys, it was at War Room, so all these millionaires and billionaires are there. $40,000 a year meeting, and I'm just like, all right, I'm just going to take my easel and go. And Ryan tells the story about how I've been doing it for over 2,300 days. Obviously, this was forever ago. And he's like, how he finds that inspiring. And Perry Belcher tells everyone, hey, y'all, if your company is stuck, or you need new product ideas, or there's something you just can't figure out, it's no shit. Just have Ori come and stay at your house for a couple of weeks. It's I've done this a couple of times, man. He is just gonna, once in a while, Ori's just gonna have this idea. It's just gonna revolutionize your business. There's no way in this entire lifetime in this universe you would have ever thought of it. I think this stuff quick, right? We're like, oh, he's an artist. I am, but I also do other stuff. What are some things people don't know about me? I competed in the World Championships of pun slinging. I didn't show up to compete though. I showed up just to watch, and I didn't know it was the World Championship year. So they're like, hey, if someone from the audience could sign up, we just had a couple of people get cold feet and they're really going to mess up our final elimination. I'm like, no, I'll go. And I had my ass handed to me, but I didn't say I competed. It's like showing up for the Olympics and like, hey, someone got a cramp. Anyone else wants to go and, race Usain Bolt? And I'm like, I'll go. People tell me I should be a runner anyway. And you're like, oops. But it was fun.
That consist of?
Well, there's two parts. I was in the second part. The first part, people have like prepared speeches that are a certain length, and you can bring outfits and props to where you. It's fun. And the second part, the thing that I compete in, you and someone else stand on stage. There's a board behind you, and when they get the timer going, and then they reveal what your category is. Bodies of waters. The one that I got was physical sports, which sucks because I'm intentionally ignorant of sports. And then you got 5 seconds to come up with a pun. You're not allowed to repeat any words. So, I can say if I make a pun on the word ball, you are not allowed to make a pun with the same word. And as you get further and further into the elimination, they get much stricter about that 5 seconds. Like, it really goes fast. And it turned out all these people that won, all the people that were competing, they're all freaking journalists. I mean, like, okay, vocabulary part. I am not a journalist. It's not what I do professionally. I just do it for fun. But it was a blast. It was just, hey, that's how you get better. You go and you work and you go against people that are better than you, whether it's in jiu-jitsu, boxing, pun slinging, or anything, copywriting, right? Like,
Right.
compete. But I was a full-time couch surfer for 6 years. My art is on the actual literal moon, so
Yeah,
you
tell me
can
about
say
that. That's kind of what I was leaning towards. What I was like, your art's out of the world,
I caught
man.
that out of
Yeah.
this world thing. And by the way, how far will Ori go for like a really bad joke? To the moon, because the entire reason that I have different motivations than many other people for things. And this company that Luna Prize, GLL, Galactic Legacy Labs, it's actually Lori Taylor. I know her from War Room and some of these other high-end masterminds. And she reached out and said, hey, you're like the greatest artist we know, and we need some NFTs of these tardigrades. If you're familiar with, or if you're not familiar, there are these animals. They're microscopic. They're called tardigrades, also known as water bears. They're kind of adorable. You can't see them. They live in bodies of water. They eat moss. That's their thing. Reason they're so well known because NASA figured out that, you know how space is like the harshest environment there is? Sub freezing temperatures, cosmic radiation that will fry you and give you cancer in like seconds if you don't have like a spacesuit and all that stuff.
Sure.
NASA figured out you take these little microscopic things into space and they don't really care about the lack of oxygen, the cosmic radiation, the sub freezing temperature. They're just like, I'm going to take a nap, and they hibernate, and you bring them back to Earth, and they're like, oh, that's cool. What's up?
Wow.
And so, there's a lot for scientists to study there, the enzymes, the proteins, what do they create that allows them to go into this hibernation and all that stuff. But there's this guy, he's Peter Drucker's grandson. His name is Nova Spivak, and he is known technically as the world's first smuggler. He's the guy who invented the technology that we use to put my art on the moon. But when he was first testing it, he thought it'd be fun to put a bunch of these microscopic animals that don't die in space into the casing, and he sent it with a satellite, a lander with the Israeli government called Bereshit, and that lander had a glitch at the last minute and crashed. So technically, there are these tardigrades, these indestructible animals on the moon. The guy actually put, there is life on the moon, kind of. We don't know if they're alive or not because they go into hibernation and how long. I mean, they've been there for a couple of years now, but they wanted to do like a TV series, kind of like the Smurfs or whatnot, but it's what happens when you take these tardigrades that have been smuggled onto the moon and, have had a couple of billion years, plus all of humanity's technology that we left on the moon after, before we blew ourselves up and all that stuff. So they become this advanced civilization and, they got their own fashion and music and there's like good life lessons and now they go and explore the universe. And so they wanted to help fund that by creating an NFT series of, all these tardigrades with their different fashions and glasses and hair and all this stuff. I'm like, I can do that. And I said, oh, we're going to do this and then we're going to be sending your art on the moon. And I said, yeah, you should just lead with that. Because when we were negotiating, they're like, well, it costs us a lot of money to do this and stuff. But I'm like, no. Like, you had me at, you're sending my art to the moon. Because now, and there were a lot of delays. I gotta tell you, man, launching a funnel or launching a product is one thing, but SpaceX, NASA, you have zero control. They're like, delay, blah, blah, blah. And so finally, this February, I was afraid they were gonna cancel again, but I flew down to Florida, went to Cape Canaveral, went to some astronauts, blah, blah, blah. And even that night, they did delay. Like, oh, do it. But it launched the next day. And I did say I'm giving it one last chance. I extend my flight. We got to watch this thing. And seeing the SpaceX Falcon 9 launch is truly magnificent. Like, not just because of the thing, but I forgot that they also come back to Earth after it launches. The rocket comes back. And that was just something I've never seen. Plus the separation when it goes into the atmosphere, you just see this circle of plasma in the sky and there's a sonic boom. It's pretty spectacular. Wow. But yes, as soon as it exited the atmosphere, I was finally able to say that my art is truly out of this world, which is my primary. I waited 2.5 years to be able to make that joke. And, now I can say, oh, I'm one of the best artists on the moon. Every time I run across one of those snooty artists who's like, my art's exhibited in 54 countries. What about you? I'm like, well, that's cool. But how many celestial bodies is it on?
Right.
What do you mean? Other than Earth, where can I find your art? I don't understand. Look, my stuff's in, I don't know, I think 30 countries by now. Not really keeping track, but, then it's on the moon, it's on Earth, where besides Earth, and then they just walk away, don't even know how to reply to such a thing.
Sure,
it's a great conversation starter.
How can you respond to that? Yeah, for sure. I love it.
My favorite things to do, though, Tony, are the things that when I tell them to people, both that I'm going to do them, and even better when I have done them, and people think that I'm absolutely kidding because you'd have to. So I played bull poker, got stuck in a tree my third time skydiving. I gone 84 miles an hour on the side of a car on rollerblades, got my art on the moon, just all this ridiculous stuff. And so there's, I want to say, I don't know what's wrong with me, but the fact is, I do these things. And again, I remind everyone, I highly recommend the book, The Art of Impossible by Stephen Kotler. He kind of talks about, right? And Peter Diamandis and those guys, Peter says, the day before something is done, it's a crazy idea, right? The Wright brothers, flight, SpaceX. NASA told NASA and every engineer and everyone and all the major publications and the science publications are all like, you can't like privatize space. It's going to take like thousands of engineers and billions of dollars. And this guy with 35 engineers and 25 million, maybe $35 million did it for a $10 million prize. It cost him more than the thing, but it doesn't matter. Change the world. The Wright brothers. It can't be done. Freaking
Right.
bicycle store guy. So, whatever it is that you're looking to do, doesn't matter if people tell you it can't be done. I'm an artist who's, like I've got some of the biggest names, Alice Cooper, Snoop Dogg, Scott Page. It was actually talk about the moon thing. That was one of the greatest things. I got a magazine cover of. I met the guys from NFT Today magazine, and they saw my portfolio. Like, dude, please do a cover for us. And I said, yeah, all right. And that night, I ran into someone, and they're like, "Oh, you gotta go to our thing tonight. Shut up!" And they're like, "Perfect timing. We're about to do our group picture." I'm like, "All right." And they stuck me, and then they introduced me to the guy that was right next to me. It's Scott Page from Pink Floyd, Toto, and Supertramp. And you're passionate about music, and it's me. He plays the sax in those things, and in those bands. We spoke. Funny story how we met. I could tell he didn't want to be there. Tell he was just being polite. And in my head, I'm like, my God, dude from Pink Floyd, like, will get their albums a couple of times. I listen to them so many times.
You're like, dude, I got art on the dark side of the moon.
Well, yeah. So I was like, hey, do you like cool art? And he's like, yeah. And I could tell he was just being polite. I jumped over to the wall where I had like my giant portfolio, the 18 by 24. This thing weighs like 40 pounds. And I could see in his face, like, oh shit, what did I get myself into?
Right.
And I hold it so that he doesn't have to. He's a little older by now. And I flip it open and he looked, it's so rewarding, but you could see the look of shock on his face. He's like, holy shit. He's like, you're really good. His lips. And now he's like, damn, dude, you got telling him, holy shit, you can draw. And then he's like, oh shit, I gotta go. My people are looking for me. They took off. I said to my friend, did that just happen? And I just meet a dude from Pink Floyd and just loved my art. And so yeah. Anyways, I tell the dudes from NFT Today the next day, I'm like, oh, you're not going to believe this. Remember we're talking about serendipity? Well, da, 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 da. And he says, oh, it's like, I can make your story even better. I'm like, how's that? It's like, well, guess who I'm interviewing in half an hour? Scott Page, the sax player for Big Floyd, Toto, and Supertramp. He's like, and I bet he'll remember you. I'm like, of course he'll remember me. You need like a therapist and like 40 years to forget me, like a really good therapist. And I'm like, so let's strategize. But you don't need to strategize. I'm just telling the truth. A, you guys asked me to do a cover. B, you guys are interviewing them. Why don't see my art is going to the moon? Why don't I make the cover be the painting of Scott and, involve the moon, dark side of the moon, that kind of stuff. He called me up half an hour later, like, dude, Scott loved it. He's in. And last December, maybe December 4, I posted this video. I have the biggest shit-eating grin on my face because it's a screen cap. Scott called me up, and he's playing the sax for my birthday. It's like 5 minutes before it turns midnight. And I'm like, I got a dude from Pink Floyd calling me up and playing Happy Birthday. I have a weird life, but young me might not have believed that if a high school me would have been like, yeah, right. Yeah, sure. But it has been so rewarding getting to run across the people that brought me joy and entertainment over the years and getting to repay that to, right, I already named Shatner and Alice Cooper and Snoop Dogg and Scott Page and like the list is getting bigger and bigger. David Copperfield, right?
Yeah.
And it's a really great journey. I think that, if there's anything that you guys think you're doing, do it. Don't listen to other people. Maybe protect yourself. We were talking earlier about the foundational works of the foundations of art, right? I said, well, you don't have to know all that stuff. Go
Right.
just start tinkering around, to come up with what your ideas are, and have the AI do them. And as you have fun with that, sure, go on YouTube or on Udemy or Schoolism and look up some stuff about composition so that you actually know, so that you can actually guide the AI better. Maybe you learn a couple more terms that you put into the prompts and stuff. If you don't get better, you never know where it goes, and be copywriting, be launching a product you want. Just, have fun, do it as a side hustle at first. You don't have to tell people at first till maybe you get good enough or whatever. The Art of Impossible mentions live. They're not sponsoring me or anything. I was just listening to it again
Well, they should give you a
recently.
sponsorship after this interview because, yeah.
I would love to. I am friends with Steven on Facebook, but that's he doesn't know me or whatever. We haven't had a conversation around
Yet.
that. Oh,
Yet.
yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
One of the things
He's
I'm getting from what you're saying here, though, is I know for me, I spent a lot of time in my life trying to get really good at something before I executed. And that's all based in ego and fear and nonsense, right? At my age now, I'm 60 years old. And in the
what?
yeah, I know it's working out, trying to take care of myself, but I am Iron Man after all. The thing is, if I had been more willing to do things messy 20 years ago, I would have accomplished a lot more things, right? I was afraid what people were going to think. I was afraid of doing it wrong. And everything I'm hearing from you is just go for it. Don't just go for it. Go after what you love, the things that you're interested in, do them. And I love that. It's such great advice. And I haven't read that book. I've heard of it, but I haven't read it. I'm definitely going to pick it up. And because I live now in a world of possibility, where 20 years ago, I lived in a world of limitations. I lived in a world of limiting beliefs, labels that people put on me, all this other stuff. And that shifted for me. I would have loved to have that shift earlier. What do you think? And you do a lot. I mean, I know, and I think anybody watching this gets that you are so much more than an artist, even as extraordinary as your art is. What is something that you think you do best? Or is there a thing that you say you do best?
Obviously, people put out a ton of art, so a lot of my collectors especially, say that I'm the best in the world. I feel that I would be misleading if I took that claim, or at least if I made that claim, because I look at Boris Vallejo's work, we mentioned him, and there's many others that I follow, Android Jones, etc., where I look up to them, right? So how can I claim the best? But the word best is generally also subjective, right? Unless you're actually battling it out,
Right.
going into a contest. And even then, how do you define best? Best is often very subjective. What's the best multivitamin? Well, it also depends. For everything, just about for any question that anyone has for me, I always say, well, the answer to that is the same thing as if you asked me for what's my favorite brand of adult diapers. It depends, right? It's the best multivitamin. Well, it depends on your genetics, right? But I'm very passionate about science. I'm very passionate about technology, storytelling, just productivity, biohacking, and there are, let's see, I have a friend that would tell you he wanted me to go and compete with Joe Rogan in a psychedelics off, which isn't even a thing. But last time I took ayahuasca, I took 9 cups, and most people take one, 2 if they're feeling brave. I was tripping for 30 hours, and I've had combinations that probably no human on earth has had at the same time. But, that's not something that I would tell anyone else to go and dabble in. I just seem to be mildly indestructible. So, right. But, it's not any one thing that you might be the best at, but rather when you combine things. For example, I don't think that I'm the best artist, but yeah, sure. I'm told on the daily that I'm a really darn good artist. I don't think I'm the best storyteller, despite that you can't even spell stories without Ori. But I listen to the Moth Story Slam. Again, people that are competitive storytellers. These guys are amazing. There's this guy, he put out a book. Go check out the book on storytelling by Michael Dix. And unfortunate last name, obviously, but
I'd have fun growing up with that one.
Well, everyone in his family is a bunch of dicks. They're, the guy is a phenomenal storyteller. He'll have you, crying and laughing and on the edge of your seat, and he takes you on a roller coaster. And he tells you this. You can learn this. Go again. Highly recommend his book. But again, I'm probably a better storyteller than me. There's better marketers than me. I mean, look at your brother. Look at, it's a long list, right? And that's fine. But I do know a lot of this stuff, and I integrate with everything else. And there are very few that are better than me in the world at doing what it takes to beat a deadline, because I will take stimulants, I will skip sleep, most people aren't willing to go that far to cross the finish line. I'm okay with that. This is my calling. There's nothing that's going to get in my way. But when you combine these four things, I'm the best. You take a painting like the William Shatner one, and all of a sudden, what's in that, right? Everything I learned from my business and marketing life. I learned about the research, my storytelling, and I was able to pull it off in such a short amount of time and get this. It's storytelling, it's the technical art, it's the composition, it's the research, it's the beating the deadline, it's the coming up with, right, the limited edition print stuff for you guys that backed it up, to back the movie. It's all these things combined. And because of that, it's creating an experience, unveiling. My paintings are quite often people's prized possession. It's not just a painting, but rather every single time someone sees it, they're not going to say, "Oh, that's a cool painting," and they're going to say thanks. It's going to be like, "Whoa, what is that? You got to tell me about that." And they're not going to go, "Thanks, that's cool, yeah." They have to tell the entire story. I've been following this guy online for over a decade, making work every day. I just find that so inspiring. And when Tom Petty died, because I'm a huge fan, I wanted to buy the piece, and my wife said, "No way, it's too expensive." But the reason she said that was because she wanted to surprise me with it. So she got in touch with the artist, and then he said, if your husband's such a big fan, why not surprise him with the painting and the artist? And then he drove 19 hours here with the thing in his car, even though he couldn't actually see anything out the right side of his car because the painting's a 40 by 70. It's a Kia Soul. Drive like this the whole time, 19 hours from Austin to Nashville, and then surprised him. And then he walked in, and she had sent them off to go take her kids to her ex's house, which she knew he hates. That allowed me to sneak in, and that also she knew he'd be grumpy, and then the contrast between that and seeing this thing that he wanted, this giant piece by his favorite artist, of his favorite musician, and he walks in and says, "You got me the thing," and she's like, "Yeah," and he's like, "This is by Ori." And I pop out from behind the painting because that's how large the painting is. I'm like, "Yep." And I stayed there for 3 days, and they showed me around Nashville. Every single time someone walks in, he's got to tell the whole story. Mm. And there's a bunch of these. I would do 2 days of recording of just telling the story that goes with each of these things. The most recent one, right? This dude his wife thought he was having an affair because he kept sneaking off to text with me and not letting her see the thing. And it was a painting for her for their anniversary, but his birthday was 2 weeks prior to that. So we planned on, "Hey, why don't you come to Vegas?" I was supposed to be living there. I'm not quite. Yeah, I'll be there, I think, in another week or two. But I said, "Why don't you guys come to Vegas?" And so we planned that. He got a suite. He put my name on the suite. And then that way I was able to go and just get a key card while I knew that they were out, and me and my dog go in and we set up the easel next to this giant window, but it's on the 32nd floor with the fabric covering the thing. And then they walk in when I give them the cue, and there's a strange man in the room. And, neither one of them has met me, by the way. I was talking to him, obviously for 4 months, but, I realized that we had only planned as far as me getting into the room. We didn't actually know what we do past that. So, thankfully, I can improvise because I realized very quickly, I'm like, wait a minute, if nothing gets said, I told him, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll get there, and then you can tell her why there's a strange man in your room. Kind of said jokingly, but then I realized, he's not saying anything. It's going to turn to fear. She'd be like, who is this guy? So I just jumped in. I went, Melinda, I give her a hug. I'm like, Christoph, happy birthday, buddy. And I told him, yeah, you probably realize since I know both your names, I know it's his birthday, you guys are getting hugs, that I'm not just some random guy that broke in. Then I kind of told her, and she stared at this painting for 45 minutes straight. The only reason she stopped was because we had dinner reservations, and then we went and saw a foreigner. My dog even went with Sasha, and we all had a great time. Anyway, my poor dog hadn't been out all day, because I took her out in Los Angeles in the morning. Then we have to drive to LA to run errands to do the unveiling. So I took her out after foreigner. And I'm like, hey, where are you guys at? We're in the suite. Went back up to the suite. And, she's in front of the painting and is staring at it. I stayed for another 2 hours. She didn't move. She was talking, but, she was staring at the thing. The next day he called me up. He said, dude, she is still staring at it. Every time we're in a room, all the time we spend in a room, she's staring at the thing. And she called up her whole family, gave each of them what do you call it? FaceTime.
FaceTime, yeah.
FaceTimed everyone and gave them a tour of the entire painting, all these different things they put in it. That's a story that's going to get told every single time for decades. If you and I are going to the same wedding, I don't recommend anyone compete with me for, gifts for a wedding. You could get them a freaking brand spanking new Lamborghini, which everyone's going to be talking about that. Not if I'm in attendance. Dude, nobody's going to talk about the Lamborghini except maybe the valet guy who's expecting a really nice tip. Everyone's going to be like, wow, that painting. And the car you're going to forget about after a while. It's just a car. That painting, every single time someone walks in, you're going to have to. So, reason I say this is the ultimate gift for someone that it's doing to profess love, to whether it's to make someone feel loved and seen, or you're trying to close a deal and trying to get past a gatekeeper or something like that. I do the research. It's something that you can't just stare at one of these pieces. Going back to your question about what am I the best at? I do the research, I create an experience, blah, blah. But when you look at this piece, the Shatner one, which you guys already know, that thing had, I believe, 23 different pieces. The mental health piece had about 32 pieces in it. And I obviously have the influence of Boris Vallejo and all these other artists. So it just is super bold, colorful, dynamic fantasy art that looks cool when you look at it, but the brain, you're studying copywriting, NLP, the brain hates an open loop. You have to stare at it. You have to stare at it and take it all in. You can't just look and go and walk by. You can't just walk past one. Your brain kind of forces you to just stop in and just stare at it. And then even after you've done that, you're like, okay, I have to know every single time this happens. Howie Mandel, he's a known germaphobe, very well known. My friend Molly, it's a whole other funny story, but she's the one in that painting. That one, by the way, what's cool is that one of the things I love to do is to surprise people with taking their hopes and dreams and showing to them what that actually looks like once they actually have achieved it. That also has a giant effect. I did one for me just as a test case, and I was surprised. I'm like, it affected me. Now I know what it'd be like if I have a pilot's license. I still want to get one now, but it's like blows away like the generic vision board where you're just cutting out pictures from a magazine and putting there. Like seeing yourself with that six pack or driving
Yeah.
that Ferrari or whatever it is. Even though he hates like being near people, he had to come over because Molly's office is in Howie's building. He was walking by. I had the Shatner piece unrolled. It was on campus. I hadn't stretched it yet. And he's just like, he had to take it all in. And he had to ask. And then he's like, dude, you're super talented. I'm like, thanks. And 3 hours later, I'm like, that guy's a judge on America's Got Talent. He's actually very well qualified to do that. But so creating a piece that's got so much detail, but isn't too busy. It's not like a Where's Waldo piece. And it's so hyper personalized, and I can do it in a short time frame, and I can help you leverage it to monetize the limited edition prints and all these things. So I'm the best. It's this weird combination of things. No one can do it like me.
I think you're really fantastic at identifying the inobvious essentials, like what people use in the story you told about Shatner. How everybody would have probably expected you to focus on the things that wound up on the movie poster, and instead you focused on other things and created something extraordinary. I would love to share some of your art.
I tell you what, send them to theartofori.com, and I'm just redoing it now to emphasize some of these new things, like the foundation things, and I got to update the work that's on there. And so I'm adding a thing where you can download the book. You can definitely go to theartofori.com/reactions. That will show you what I've been talking about. I can tell you how people are like losing their shit, crying, whatever. But when you see it, like I've had people cry just watching the reactions reel. This is the best of humanity. And people can follow me on my Instagram. Again, I don't really post enough on there. The Shatner thing, I don't think I even posted on there, but I'm on as The Art of Ori Instagram. I'd say probably the best place to follow me, because I don't post nearly as much because I'm working so much now. Yeah, that's a curse of getting good at what you do. Like, I wish I could pay my bills just with doing art. Okay, well, now I've got so much art, I'm drowning in it, right? But I love it, so it's not like when I was like, oh, I wish I could do more websites. And I was like, I hate my life.
Right.
Now I enjoy it. It's challenging. And again, I feel like I'm constantly making new friends, right? Like, what's a friendship? What's a relationship about? It's about the process of doing things together and eventually like learning more about each other. And I have to do this in a hyper accelerated time, right? Some gal told me what she wanted for a painting. And, she's like, how's it going after a while? I said, well, it's not that I haven't been working on it. I got some sketches. Like, I'll show them to you, but I'm like, you didn't have the conversation with me. We didn't sit down and get to find out like who you really are, what you're really passionate about, what really moves you. You just told me like, oh, you want you on the dance floor, da 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 da. I'm like, here's that, but do this homework. Tell me all of these things, and I'll know what I'll figure out what to make it so it makes you cry, so that your kids are fighting over who gets it in the will and all that. Maybe I'm just working from morning to night, but I feel like I'm socializing because I'm doing things with my friend. I'm doing things with, all these people that I'm learning about people, and it's back and forth, and they feel proud because they helped to create this thing. And when they see the reaction on someone else because of something that they helped create, that gives them this giant high as well. Like, I actually like literally warn people. If someone tells me like, oh, I want to do this for my girlfriend, honestly, how long you guys been together? You guys actually like love each other? You guys are serious? Like, it's going somewhere? If they're like, no, we're just dating, whatever, be like, go elsewhere. Like, I'm not the guy for you. Because it's not fair for someone to have something that makes that big of an impact on them, right? Like, that's a lifelong impression. This is like actual, it's studying like the neuroscience, like how memories are made, all this stuff. This leaves a lasting impression. Like I said, Shatner said that was like the best part of his entire 93rd birthday. I'll tell you the downside. Every time I do anything, the second I finish it, the second we hang up from this call, my brain's instantly go to this is crap, this is crap, this is crap. Like, it's going to find out all the things they did wrong, all the things, you should have said this faster, you should have stopped there, you should have asked this, you should have blah, blah, blah. When I do a painting, right, people like love it. It takes a lot not to say, I could have done this better, because you don't want to take away from something that they absolutely love. Like, actually, yeah, it's cool that you guys like it, but you guys are just amateurs. Actually, if you look here, I screwed this up. I mean, I try not to screw anything up, but I'm always working to improve. And in order to do that, I also have to find out, like, what can be improved. So the second I've done something, in a sense, I'm like, it's shit. It's like, you gotta be careful. There's a time and a place, but I've made that in order to get to where I'm at, I've had to give that part of big part a lot of power. And so I'm aware that if I don't get that in check, it's going to steal a lot of the joy from my life. Because, hey, you know what? There's a flip side to that. We're talking about, you're telling people like, hey, just do the thing. You're talking about like if you start 20 years ago and still living in fear and all that stuff. I did the 4,000 days of art. Yeah, sure. It got me a lot better than if I hadn't. And even if I had kept making art the whole time, but I didn't have that consistency, I'd never been as good as I am. But it thickened my skin, which is a super, super skill to have. I don't care if someone insults my art. I've already heard it all, but if it's a person who booked it, he commissioned it, and they don't like it, I'm going to feel I disappointed myself and all that stuff, because of, at this point, it is my job to understand the people, to understand what's special for them, what style, what everything. There's an interesting thing that happened. You get your haters, you get your fans, you get both. Who cares? Shouldn't really listen to either of them. You keep doing your thing. But there were so many pieces that I was like, yes, I can't believe I did this. I am God's gift to art. I can't wait to get their reactions on this, and I'll post it. Freaking rickets. Nothing. I don't know if it's the algorithm. I don't know if that piece sucks. I don't know. Brain's going to beat me up about it either way, it's hardly ever going to think it's the algorithm. Could be. No, it's like, no, man, you're not near as good as you thought. Oh, you're losing your touch. But then on the flip side, there's pieces that I was embarrassed to post. I'm like, I've worked on this for hours. I'm like literally having like key indentations on my forehead because I can't stay awake. I'm like, I'm just posting it. I wake up. I thought it was awesome. Got people offering to buy it, which is obviously the most sincere way to show me that you really like a piece. Because yeah, sure. Oh, this is great. Did you buy it? It doesn't matter what I think. You are not your audience. So just put the stuff out there, and you learn that, there's another thing that I did, which was kind of also because of lack of sleep. It's amazing, how much innovation that particular thing causes,
Deprivation.
By the way, every single, health and fitness and biohacking and longevity and anti-aging podcast is going to tell you the most important thing is sleep. So I am not telling you not to sleep. Try it, experiment, but it seems to work for me. Whatever. I'm weird. I'm sure my health is all sorts of screwy. But when I started, I spent all the time making the art, and I try to think of something clever to say. Today I was trying to work on this, or if you look, I can't even think of any examples. I don't care at this point. But one time I was so tired, I just want to sleep. I made things, so I wrote got a title for my latest painting. After that, that's all I ever posted. Just about always, I would post just got a title for my latest painting because it's brilliant. It's better than anything witty that I could write about the paint. It forces people to, in order to come up with a title, people have to look at it and they have to think of what do they actually see. And then it caused engagement because people would write theirs and people would start voting for the other ones that they like, or they tell you the ones that they didn't agree with. No, I like that one. That was good. And people would kind of like compete, and it was awesome. Like it all happened because lack of sleep, but it built engagement. There were great titles, and there are a few. There's this one painting I did of Einstein, and someone named it E=LSD. Now that's the title, and she bought it, and she got to name it. So there's a few of them that have a title.
Who do you want to be a hero to?
That's an interesting question. It's a great question. Groucho Marx said that I don't want to belong to any club that would have me as a member, right? I don't know that I look at myself as a role model. I have tons of people message me all the time that I'm inspiring, and it was actually interesting. I was just talking about the 4,000 days of daily art. Somewhere along the process, I started having like people that are parents messaging me, not my parents, obviously, but other people's parents telling me like, hey, I was trying to tell them, I was showing your stuff to my kids. I was trying to teach them about consistency and dedication. I'm like, why show them my stuff? Like, have you met me? Because I still had it in my head that, I'm flaky, that, I dropped out of 2 colleges. I was teaching at those places and I was teaching myself. But, right, I've had all these different jobs, like, my bank account hasn't always been full, and, we make the mistake of thinking that is our value. You know what, dude? I mean, it's like they say, you take a billionaire, throw them in the middle of nowhere without any money, or give them $20, they'll be able to build it right back up. Whereas if you give someone who hasn't done the work, you're talking earlier about shortcuts, right? You take someone, you go, here's $1 million. They'll probably just blow it, lose it all, and, someone who's built it up and knows what it takes. But I had I didn't see myself. I don't see myself. I still have a hard time with compliments and stuff because, my collectors introduced me to people like, Ori, he's like the living embodiment of Leonardo da Vinci, or Ori's the greatest, artist on the planet. I'm like, it's hard for me to keep a straight face. I've learned to just be a gracious thank you, thank you, appreciate that. But, my inner voice is like, dude, you need to go out more or whatever, right? And so I was like, yeah, have you met me? Like, why, I don't think I'm a good role model. And you're like, how many days in a row have you done your daily art? Time it was 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. After I was like, oh, all right, I guess there's something there, right? Like it just, but I didn't see it. I didn't know it. It was just, it, I don't know if a butterfly actually realizes when it's got its wings, it's like, oh, I'm still a freaking caterpillar. Like, and so as far as like, who do I want to be a hero to? I don't. Like I am like already, like I've got a lot of people telling me on the regular, but I'm not that egotistical. And the reason that things are working out for me now, by the way, like really working out, is because I've had so many things fail. I've had so many things not go my way. Hey, yeah, sure, the thick skin and stuff, but it just beat the ego out of me. You told me like it's cutting off the eye from my graphic up there. So I don't care. I'm not here for me. I'm here for your listeners. I'm here for you. Like I'm here to offer value. That's not when I first had the idea about like the epiphany, like, oh man, I need to, work with foundations and do that. It was in 2019 when your brother got me with Alice Cooper, and I had the idea like, yeah, I can help them make so much more money, but it was me thinking about how can I get more exposure? How can I get on more celebrities, stages and stuff? Now I genuinely care. Like I just want to make I just want them to help their cause. I want to change those lives. I don't even care if I get the recognition for it. Like, cool. Like, yeah, it'd be great if I get more exposure and but like, yeah, I got to eat and all that stuff. My reputation helps. But now I've built a model that helps, foundations. There was this foundation I worked with, and the painting did not end up being auctioned. There was a little bit of drama between the founders, and everyone loved the painting, but it didn't actually make it into the auction, which was fine. So we still had the painting, and so my friend that connected me with that organization was like, "Hey, I'll tell you what, there's other." He reached out to another friend of his that works with foundations in the mental health space. He told them like it's 10 grand and 10% of the sales, and you guys can have this thing too. Plus this much to print a copy of it. And I said, "Whoa, that's awesome, thank you." But tell them that for that 10 grand and 10%, da da da. Like, not only can we do the limited edition prints, but I will customize that painting because that painting has the colors of that other foundation. I'll put their colors on it. I can add their logo into it. So now I've got scale because there are many foundations and organizations within the mental health space. And I can work on other spaces as well. I could do, homelessness or helping battered people or helping, veterans fight PTSD or, et cetera, et cetera. There are many different foundations with each thing, and I can help them. So now I can customize it for all of them. I can put up a sales team and go contact every single foundation and within the particular space, so that thing that felt like it was painful actually became a miracle and a blessing, because I was like, oh man, I worked so hard on that painting. I can't believe it didn't auction. Like, after all that, now it's like, wow, well, actually because that happened, now that gave me, that's what gave this model that allows me to work with many more foundations with basically the same painting, but then modifying it, because it takes me much less time to modify a piece, customize and brand it for a particular organization than it does to just make a giant one from scratch, one for each of them. And most times I've found that whenever something like horrible happens, it ends up being a blessing. You just have to kind of see that. And, life just kind of beat the ego out of me. I don't care anymore. If someone wants me to be a hero, then I hope that they find the good things, because I am no saint. Like I said, I've done combinations of drugs that likely no other human in history has done. I seem to be very resilient and indestructible. I jumped off of bridges. Told, I've gone places where I would likely be stabbed or shot, and I'm just oblivious. Like, I had a friend who decided that she's going to be more like me. And when I heard that, I had chills down my spine. All of a sudden, I realized why my parents and everyone else is so concerned. I was like, this person's going to get herself killed. Like, I do so much dumb shit, but with me, it works. Like, I seem to be indestructible. Like, my life, everything's worked flawlessly like this, like, I'm always fine. It's never, there's never been a problem. But when someone who's like conservative and cautious, they decide to go and, just live outside of their fears, their comfort zone. I was like, my God, she is going to get herself obliterated. And you know what? Thank gosh that she didn't. And I was cautious to not say like, I don't think you can do it or whatever. But you know what? Now she lives in Mexico and she goes scuba diving, which is like her biggest passion. Almost every single day, I'm seeing her post another thing. She attributes that to me. Like, so if you try and emulate some stuff, like just be super careful, like do things intelligently, because I just jump into things and there's a reason we have fear. It's supposed to keep us alive. I'm very humbled and grateful when someone thinks I'm a hero. Like, there's a lot of people that I think are heroes to me because they've gone and done the impossible. They've gone and faced their own challenges. I mean, Richard Branson's dyslexic and all this stuff. And I find him to be a massive inspiration, not only because he does a lot of good in the world, but like, before I cared about the doing good thing, here's a guy who's doing awesome in business, like lots of different business. So he's obviously ADHD. He's like doing, do music and airplanes and all this stuff. But he's doing it with a sense of humor. Australia tried to put on this like tariff, like landing there. And he's like, well, we're Virgin Airlines just ain't going to fly to Australia then. And the guy was like, oh, all right, well, they got rid of the tariff. So Branson showed up dressed as an Indian chief, and with like the loincloth and stuff, and like brought a hatchet and like literally buried the hatchet. Like, he's got a sense of humor. They had to be rescued. I don't even know what the number is at the time. Last I checked, it was probably a decade ago. It's like, I think 11 or 12 times. They had to be rescued by a helicopter because of his hot air balloon hobby and passion. And like, that's awesome. Who does that? I can't picture myself being a hero of those guys. If I could just get on the radar, I'd be grateful. You know what? I do heroic stuff. I just don't think about that because I'm just having fun. When I was in Mexico, my neighborhood caught on fire. Like, the whole town caught on fire. It's a little town. We have the hot winds, they were coming out from Tijuana and Ensenada, and we're right between. There was fire coming from every direction, and they evacuated, and you hear the orphanage at the top of the hill. That's like catching on fire, and like everyone, the military is coming in and like, clearing the roads and making sure people don't go back in. And I took off and I'm filming it. I'm like, hey, look, it's like, I'm dumb. I do dumb shit. I just spent like 20 minutes telling you that, I'm like, yeah, look, it's fun. Hey, everyone, I'm live streaming. I'm like, check it out. I'm driving like it's like I'm a stunt dude. I'm like, get out of my neighborhood. It's like fire, like jumping the road and stuff. And then I realized, oh man, my parents are going to see this. They're going to panic because I'm having fun, but they're really like, good. So I call them on WhatsApp. I'm like leaving a message. I'm like, hey guys, I'm okay. And as I'm leaving, I'm like, oh shit, I forgot my Alice Cooper painting. I turn right and drive back into the neighborhood that's on fire. Get my Alice Cooper photo, because that was a special day. And I could just had a new one printed, but I go back out. I evacuate. I'm at a friend's house. My buddy sees my stuff on fire and called me up. It's one of my neighbors. He's like, dude, I'm in Ensenada. Like, I'm DJing. Like, what's happening? Called neighborhood got evacuated, and he's like, dude, my dog's over there, and so they weren't letting anyone get on the freeways and stuff. So I'm like, I'll get your dog, and I get in my car, drive back, and big old military vehicle with Mexican dudes with 50 calibers on it. So I'm not getting back in the neighborhood. Drove to the edge of town, jumped someone's fence, climbed down to the beach, and I jogged 3 miles, 3.5 miles, and it's smoky and fiery. And there's the tide and there's rocks. And I went, and now I went around where the military vehicles were. I went into the neighborhood the back way. I ran to his house. He had given me the lockbox code. So I got the key. I got Noche out. Posed for a selfie. Look who I got. And then we ran 3.5 miles back, and the tide had risen. So this is crazy. And so we're kind of stuck. We're like, oh crap, can't get back to the street. I saw this dude opened up his gate and he was on the street. Look, because there's fire across the street. So we ran out right from behind him, right through his gate. And he didn't see us doing that. But me and his dog, I'm like, man, that's pretty serious fire, huh? And ran back to where I had evacuated to. Billy finally was able to get on the road. He came at like 8 a.m, got his dog. He's like, dude, thank you so much. I finally went to sleep. And then I got woke up because that place that I had evacuated to, that caught on fire. So I went to another place, a couple of towns up. And then I evacuated from there when the fire jumped the road and was actually like, and I took a painting that he had at that house. I'm like, no offense, but I don't know if your house is going to make it in the next 10 minutes. I had to drive through like smoke that really closed the roads. Like I literally couldn't see. So I was trying to stay on the centered thing, and I just like, I'll floor it because I don't want my tires to melt. And I cleared the smoke, and there's like the barricade, the cops are there. I'm like, oh, and then, and then the next place I evacuated to was a beautiful high rise made of concrete and had a pool and a jacuzzi, and I slept, and it was like, everything was fine. But everyone's like, oh, dude, you saved that guy's dog, right? Like, I mean, I jogged through smoke and fire to circumvent the military to get the guy's dog. But for me, it was just fun, like I was like, it's like, I wasn't thinking like, oh, how do I, like, I wasn't doing it for like any recognition. I was like, oh shit, my neighbor's dog. Like, I feel terrible for the dog. And if my dog, I'd burnt alive because I didn't call someone for help, or my gosh, that's like a lifelong PTSD, and so, but at the same time, I don't necessarily recommend for everyone else to go and try, trespassing, running through the ocean and rocks at night, and, and smoke inhalation, and, like, it's also like dumb shit to do. So my life plays out like an action comedy. I definitely believe in simulation theory. I feel like I'm like in the middle of like the Truman Show, just better cameras because I can't find the little buttons and all that stuff. It's just weird, the stuff that I asked friends like, hey, do you have anyone I can help? Right? Here's one of the people I'm helping right now. There's these nuns that grow weed, right? They got a fraudulent order for like 12 grand, and now their bank isn't backing them, and if it's gonna put them under. So I'm creating little stickers, like little weed smoking nuns and nuns with shrooms, like stickers and shirts and stuff that they can, make like a nice large painting that they can auction, but also merch. So you can do volume with stuff that's high margin. A sticker you get for like less than $1, but you can sell it for $5, and I'll make them, like a series of them. Speak them thing. They've got a lot of followers, so that's superhero stuff. These things, but I just love the sound of it, like weed growing nuns that need a hero. Like that's perfect. It goes with my stupid story, like so what do you do? Oh, I got my art on the moon. I competed in the world championships of punch slinging. Then this time I saved these weed growing nuns. This time I ran into it's like I have this weird life. I don't. So I will say this. This isn't necessarily, this is not any particular question. I have noticed a call it intuition. We all have different voices. I'm not saying we're all schizophrenic or whatnot. I don't know necessarily what that's like, but we all have we got the one that's like, you're a piece of shit. You're a failure. Dude, you're not an artist. Right? I wish I hadn't listened to that. Well, actually, I mean, I got the value out of those 10 years off. But, if I didn't have that, insight, but learning to recognize epiphanies and learning to recognize, for me, it's serendipity. For me, if there's like a lot of weird stuff going on, like what are the odds that happened kind of thing? I'll give you a perfect example. I'm absolutely going to reach out to your brother, Joe. Hey, tell him to call me. I have his number, but it'd be funnier if his brother tells him. Because I had it. Someone just told me, oh, why don't you reach out to Alice Cooper's? I mean, like they, you just did a golf foundation, a golf tournament thing. You just said Alice Cooper's thing was a golf tournament that he had his auction at, your first one. Why don't you reach back out to them? I said, I don't have their contact info. Why don't you reach out to the guy? And so I add to my notes, reach out to Joe Polish. The next day, his brother, Tony, calls me or messages me and says, hey, can we make some time on like a Friday, get on a podcast? Well, I'd love to. It had nothing to do with Joe. I'm just saying like there's that, okay, cool, whatever. And then we take our first break and I pick up my phone and take it out of sleep mode. I had a message from Jason Moffat. Like, first message I read is from Jason Moffat. He's like, I sent him like a funny clip, and he replied, it's funny. I was just riding in the car with Joe Polish the other day, and he called Ian up. Like, what are the odds that, in the same week, I put in my notes, someone says, contact Alice Cooper. All right, well, Joe contacted me with them. All right, so I put it on my notes, reach out to Joe maybe. And then his brother reaches out to me, and I get off the call with his brother, and then Jason Moffat, mentions him, like, that's weird. So I have like a heightened sense of seeking out serendipity. I have noticed that for me, I use it as a guiding light. For me, as soon as I went to like, I'm just going to be of service. I don't even care if it's with my art or not. I'm just, how can I help kind of thing. Just crazy things started happening. They're like miraculous. And it's like, never would have happened if I hadn't done that. So just between that, for you, it might be, for me, it's serendipity. For you, it might be something else. But on top of serendipity for me is just, it's, pay attention to this. Maybe give it a little added weight in your decision making. But on top of that, there's this certain feeling. We have different feelings. You got nervousness, you've got fear, you've got anxiety, you've got depression, you've got joy, and there's also combinations in between, right? Like butterflies in your stomach might mean that you're like just in love and you're just like, or it might mean that you're on a freaking roller coaster and you're about to crap your pants because like, that you're about to go over the hill because it's climbing up so slow and you hear the rattling and up. Same feeling, just different context, right? And so I've kind of gotten better attuned to those gut feelings. There was this lady, she reached out. We want to feature you. We want to build this entire show around you. We'll get you all this exposure. Now, exposure for me is like a trigger word, not like a thing that, feel like they think it's going to get me excited. But I've had people like try to use that as an empty promise. People take advantage of artists and all that stuff, millennia, and says, oh yeah, do this for us for free and we'll give you, and it's just like, oh, we'll get you this exposure, we'll make it all. Her story kept changing, and I just felt that gut feeling. Like she came through this particular network, so I was like, oh, I'll try to give her a chance. No, trust your gut feeling. If someone feels like shady or makes you, a little, you're like, they're kind of twitchy, like trust that feeling. Like I ended up not doing anything with her, and I'm kind of glad like the story kept changing, and so, but at the same time, you learn the positive one as well. Like when someone says something or something happened and I feel this one thing, I'm like, that, whatever that thing is, like I may not know anything about it, may not have heard anything about it, or may not have had time to think about it. I'm going to run with it. Like, I recognize that feeling as like, I just take it as divine intervention. Like, this is like that little nudge, like, go with it. That, what's that movie? Nicolas Cage, City of Angels, right? There are these angels, we don't see them, but all they do is like touch us and like give us that little comfort, that extra strength in that moment we need it, right? Trust your instincts, whether it's divine or whether it's a million years of evolution. That's how, that we evolved so that we, don't get killed and all that stuff. But trust it. Find what your thing is. Your podcast is probably like the first place where I'm saying it because it kind of feels like I finally figured out the universe. Like my values have changed, my beliefs have changed, my motivations have changed, and now I like who I am. Other people seem to like who I am, etc. I feel I know how to read the signs. Like, I use it for my decision maker, right? I use it. There's things that I want to do, but I'll feel that little thing and be like, I'm not doing that. And I've learned to trust that stuff, and seems woo woo whatever, but it's serving me well. Like
Yeah.
I mean, I like where I'm at. So
I think that one of the things I've learned about women is women that are really in tune and in touch and grounded. Their intuition is impeccable, and too often as men we don't trust that sort of stuff. So
there's a great quote by Mark Twain. Good decisions come from experience. Experience comes from bad decisions.
that's true. That's great. Ori, I don't know. Maybe you're not. Sometimes the word hero freaks people out, but I think about, who else do I want to impact? Who else do I want to serve?
Like, look, I paint, I sculpt, I carve, I weld, I play with my food. I'm like those little kids, it doesn't have to be a crayon. You put something in front of me, I will make art out of it. You put a problem in front of me, I will solve it. I am creativity. Like, I don't use creativity. You're like, oh, where do you find your inspiration? I'm like, inspiration's for suckers. I don't need inspiration. I do my research. I'm a pro. I don't have to wait for inspiration to strike. So I don't care what medium I'm using. I don't care what kind of stuff do you paint? So all of it. What app do you use? All of them. Right? That's why I love art. But I do it and I don't have to be bored. I just had a conversation with a foundation. They're trying to help they're children of the rainforest is what they call it. There's unfortunately there's corrupt governments and all that stuff, and so they're offering mining rights to companies and the Amazon, and they're mining for minerals, and they're just poisoning the crap out of the river. And most of the kids in this village and these, native people over there, they don't make it past 7 years old or 10 years old. They die just from the water that they're drinking. They're surrounded by everything poison. And so they're raising money for that. Cool, I can help you with that. I just talked to the folks over at the Last Prisoner Project. They're helping get people out who are in for cannabis crimes, especially where it's been legalized. So there's this, and now they're trying to get them out. They're trying to get their records expunged. They're trying to change bills in different states. They're getting letter writing campaigns, both to politicians, but also to the prisoners who are on the inside, so that that people care. That's amazing, man. But like, there's this kid, his name's Kevin. He's in Louisiana, I believe. He's got a lifetime sentence for selling $20 of weed. And weed has already been legalized here, but he's still serving a life sentence for a $20 weed, and it's already legal. How is that? And these guys are doing that, and they're coordinating with thousands of attorneys that see that this is the right thing to do, and they're working with dispensaries, and they're working. It's amazing. Like, I can help them. Absolutely. Can I help them? I reached out. I had it's like there's I don't know, maybe I'm a big softie, like what someone said, can you help? I made a calendar for this dog shelter, because when my dog had puppies and I didn't even realize I had a pregnant dog, and someone connected me with a shelter and they brought me like the little fences and food and told me what to do. And I was like, dude, thank you. And so they take the Mexican street dogs, they clean them, they train them, they neuter them, and make them into lovable things. And they put them on buses and take them to, pet shelters and adoption events and, get them off the streets and stuff. And I was like, here, I made them calendars with like adorable like dogs as cowboys so that they have, something that they can use as an evergreen fundraiser to more funds and, get more equipment they're always in need of and stuff like that. So I don't really care like what the cause is. I mean, like I get to choose, I get to pick and choose, but like why limit to one thing? Never. I actually have this strategy I came up with, it started with Alice Cooper thing, what it's going to lead into. I'm not going to give my whole game plan here, but in another 10 years or so, I'm going to have the best selling book in history. And like, I'm going to beat out Harry Potter. Bible, it's debatable because, who knows how many actually they've sold and all that, but I'll beat out Harry Potter. And it's going to be with an art book. Obviously, it's never been done. So I was trying to do this, but the way I'm going to do this is by being basically raising more money than anyone, basically, like helping most foundations and all this stuff. I hope to find new causes that I have never heard of, right? And be like, all right, that one's weird, but let's do it. It's great. And the cool thing is, with each one that I do, I can help even more, because additionally, like as get a reputation, people are like, oh crap, we don't raise, 100 grand last year, but because Ori did da 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 da, now we raised like 300 grand this year. Their buddies would be like, hey, can you do a thing for my foundation? Sure. What I said before, bring in a sales team, help all of the foundation. Now I can bring on other artists to come help me. It doesn't even have to be about me. I don't care. I can do a lot more good. And now I'm also helping the other artists get the exposure because maybe they're not at the point that I'm at. So I got commissioned to do the poster for TEDx Wilmington event, and I love TED Talks, and I haven't been to one live, and so I went. And this one gal, she's in my background. I don't know if she's showing whatever, but she's the one in the pink dress driving a Formula One car. She's like, hey, I draw. You're going to be there. I'm going to be there. Let's do drawings of each other. I said, all right. And so I asked her a bunch of questions about herself. I kept saying, like, I'm not going to tell you if the answers that you give me are going to make it into the drawing or not. But I just asked a bunch of things. And I'm very competitive. Like I said, the whole wedding thing, like, I would not bet against me on, gift giving thing. And so I said, let's do a public unveiling. She's like, that's a great idea. And she said, why don't I go first? And I said, I think that's a very good idea because, I'm a tough act to follow. And so she unveiled hers and I loved it. That's what's in there. It was funny because we were both dropping hints to each other of what we created, but they're like, teasing, like not. So she's like, I showed this to a bunch of people and they're like, man, you nailed it. And great, another portrait. I've got a million that I've made of me, and then I've got, oh my God, all right, let's see. Well, she unveiled it. It's awesome. She just wrote the word Ori in big writing, and then there's all these words around like original and oriental and all these different words because I'm always mentoring, exploring, and so on. So that was the portrait that she made of me, and she said, "What do you think?" I'm like, "I love it." If she had just drawn me, I probably wouldn't. It's great. I got a million of those, but this was I can't believe that nobody ever thought of that. And it absolutely captures my essence. And so she made that. it was cute, you know.
I appreciate your time today. We've had quite a discussion. I feel like we could do the Ori show, like the Ori miniseries. And there's a lot of words that, you can't say without Ori in them. But the one that comes to me right now
Boring.
after spending this time with you. What?
Boring.
No,
Snoring.
that one doesn't come to me, is original. Like original. Like you are definitely unoriginal, bro. And I so appreciate you spending time with me and being so open and telling me all these amazing stories. And I look forward to being able to do what I can to bring more people into your universe so that you can have that world record of helping foundations and just keep doing what you love and doing it with fearlessness and craziness and
I appreciate that, man. I'll have one last thing just because of what you just said about, more foundations and this and that. So I had the epiphany. This is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to do. This is my calling. This story is moving quickly. But yeah, hopefully I can help at least one person that listened, got a little something that will help them move forward in what they're doing. I did my job.
Awesome. Is there anything additional? We've already given some of your contact information. I said I'm going to post links, but is there anything that you want people to do after listening to this?
You know what? It's great. Go to my Instagram and LinkedIn and I don't know, what are the things that people actually care about? My Facebook page, like the one to follow is my personal profile, but go to my Facebook page and do likes and follows and all those. I probably should set up a YouTube as TikTok and all that stuff, but I'm starting to. I haven't been given credibility. I'm too busy making the art to show off the art and stuff. But there is a value in credibility in the algorithm starts showing it to other people. I do more good if more people know about me. And if you have a foundation or are, on the board or an advisor or know someone, send them theartofori.com/reactions. Tell them you're this guy. This is now what his life purpose is and help you, and let's have a conversation. The Art of Ori, I'll have my contact form fixed by end of day, so way before you post this. So yeah, that's good.
All right. And I'll put all those links below too.
And if you guys have a show or a podcast that you think your people might be inspired by, then yeah, reach out. I got a million more stories we didn't even get to here, so
believe it, 100%. All right, brother. Ori Bengal, thank you so much for your time today, man. I appreciate you. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks for having me, man. It was an honor.
Thank you for tuning into Hero Up. I hope today's episode challenged you to step up as a hero in your field and provided you with valuable insights to express your unique voice and message. If you found this episode helpful and motivating, please leave a review and share it with your friends and family. And remember to subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes and amazing guests. Until next time, find your voice, share your message, live your mission.